I think it's crazy to trust Washington more. I do not at all think it's crazy to think Washington can win. Listen, the the game they played them, 6 weeks ago or a month ago and beat them 36-33. And everyone will say, yeah, well, Jalen Hurts got hurt in that game. And that's totally true. But Philly scored 33 points. Like, I know Jalen was out and maybe they would have had a totally different game plan, and Philly did, Kenny Pickett made some mistakes. I'm not saying everything would have gone the same, but it's not as if Washington won that game because once Jalen got hurt, Philly couldn't move the ball. What's unbelievable about that win, DeMonte, is Washington turned the ball over in that game 5 times and scored 36 points and won. I couldn't believe it when I was rewatching it this week. That game, I guess I maybe
Sounds almost
maybe because
impossible.
it's
To be able to
it's
do
not
that.
impossible, but it's damn near unprecedented. That game, Washington had 5 turnovers, lost 3 fumbles, had 2 Jayden threw 2 picks, and they got stopped. I think it was the opening drive of the game on a 4th down. So they had 6 possessions end in a turnover or turnover on downs, and they scored 36 points and won the game. Now, that was also a game CJ Gardner-Johnson got ejected in, and that really seemed to hurt the Eagles secondary. But I think Washington's going to be able to move the football on Philly. And the question is, can Washington at all slow down Saquon Barkley? Because up to this point, not only no one has, but they specifically haven't been able to. First matchup, Saquon. 26 carries, a buck 46, 2 touchdowns, 2 catches for 52 yards. So the first matchup, 198 yards, 2 touchdowns. Second matchup, 29 carries for a buck 50 with 2 touchdowns, no catches, but that was again Jalen got hurt. So he's averaging a buck 75 yards from scrimmage and 2 touchdowns in 2 matchups against Washington this year. That will get you beat. That no
Saquon
matter.
and Jalen Hurts are both a little banged up going into this game, I assume, though. From what
So
I
I
saw
don't
from
think
last
Saquon's
game.
banged up. You're talking
Not
about
at
because of
all.
his hand.
Yeah, it
I
is
think
his hand. It's not. It's like a leg thing, but yeah, I mean, but
I
and
so
they're
I,
leaning on Saquon. I don't trust
they've
Jalen
got to
Hurts to make
lean
the
on
plays.
Saquon, and I did
Right.
find it interesting that Philly yesterday did not hold a practice; they held a walkthrough. Why is that? I think the answer is because Nick Sirianni didn't want out there that Jalen Hurts couldn't practice.
Yep.
Because I think, listen, Jalen is for as much criticism as Jalen fairly receives for the limitations as a passer, he is a tough dude. And I mean, it looked like he could have torn every ligament in his knee on that one of those
Yeah.
plays. He came back in a couple minutes later. Now he got safetied because Sirianni made him drop back, and he obviously had some issues there. But so I fully expect him to play. I don't, that part to me is not a concern at all. But let me rephrase it. It's a concern, will he be effective? It's not a
Right.
concern, will he not play? But they are really going to have to figure out, can they do something that no one's been able to do as of late, which is slow down Jayden Daniels. And is Jayden Daniels, if we just go back, starting with the Philly game, 260 yards, this is just passing. 260 yards passing, 5 touchdowns. 227 yards passing, 3 touchdowns. 268 yards passing, 2 touchdowns. 299 yards passing, 2 touchdowns. You then say, in that same stretch of games, what's his rushing been? 9 for 81, 16 for 127, 13 for 36 in the first playoff game, 16 for 51 in the second playoff game. The kid's been unbelievable. Flatly unbelievable. And so I do think it's crazy to trust a young team with a banged up offensive line and a below average defense more than the Eagles as a whole. I do not think it's crazy to believe Washington can go in there and win that game. You got a follow up here,
I
DeMonze.
think they could win it. But if Washington and Jayden wins, will you officially have a new category of take? We'd call it category 4, where it's you're wrong, but you got enough of the take correct to consider
Oh, I
yourself
like
correct
this.
on the take.
So, I mean, category 1 is instantly correct.
Yeah.
Category 2 is eventually correct. Category 3 is dead wrong, like embarrassingly wrong. So, what you're saying is going into the season, I had this take. The Chiefs going for a three-peat will face in the Super Bowl a rookie quarterback who won a Heisman Trophy, who is a dual threat, who has a connection to Cliff Kingsbury, who went in the top 2 of the draft, and will be named Caleb Williams. And that if I got the first 6 pieces of that take correct and just the 7th wrong, do I get to claim credit? I'm here to tell you maybe. I mean, if again, if I go out on a limb and say this year, the first time ever a rookie is going to make the Super Bowl, and it's going standing between the Chiefs and a three-peat, will be a rookie quarterback. And everyone's like, oh my God, a rookie's never made the Super Bowl. And then that happens. Am I more wrong because I picked the wrong rookie than folks that were like, oh, it's going to be the Lions? I don't know. You know what I mean? This is a question people are asking.
Pretty
I must
close.
say. Pretty close.
Freaking close. Yeah.
Pretty close. Or like a combination of totally right and totally wrong. That's to me what the category 4 is. Like, let me think of another example of this. Totally right and totally wrong. I would say kind of, well, no, that one doesn't work. I don't know. I can't think of it on the fly. Let's go on to the new coaches, and then we'll do our picks and stuff.
Yeah, so we didn't have time on Tuesday, but obviously Ben Johnson is going over there with Caleb Williams and the Bears.
Yep.
What grade would you give that hire?
I'd give that an A. They got the guy they wanted to get. Again, you don't know. Are you getting Matt LaFleur, Kevin O'Connell, or are you getting the long list of offensive geniuses who's never been a head coach who failed? Are you getting, I guess Brian Dable, it's not fair to say he failed yet, but it's not going well. There have been a lot of these guys who we thought were offensive genius. Mike McDaniel, by the way. Is that working? I don't know. He got an extension. It worked early, and that's the better end. The real bad end is like Freddie Kitchens and Nat Hackett, and now you can say those aren't really fair examples. Shane Steichen, I don't know if that's working. So you can't say this is going to work great. You can say this is the guy they needed to hire. And weakening Detroit is another really good piece of this, DeMonze. So, and that's the other thing, and we can get to Aaron Glenn now. Man, there are some legitimate concerns about Detroit. But go ahead. You can do the follow.
Yeah, so the Jets landed Aaron Glenn. Do you think that that's a step in the right direction, or is it more of the same?
No, I
Then,
like it for the Jets.
okay,
I like it for the Jets, and I like the fact that they got him. It would have been he has a real connection to that organization. It would have been an indictment if he decided he didn't want to go there. Everyone that's ever known Aaron Glenn's been impressed by him, it seems like. Sean Payton loves him. Bill Parcells loves him. Coach Mangini loves him. I remember people back in Houston talking about him. Why? And that's what I'm trying to remember. Because when I remember John, okay, that's why. It's because he played for the Texans. I was like, he never coached for the Texans. But when I lived in Houston, John Lopez my old radio partner there, loved Aaron Glenn and would always speak highly of Aaron Glenn when he was getting his start in coaching, I think, with Cleveland. So everyone loves Aaron Glenn. So that part of it I really do like. I do think for the Lions, DeMonte, this is a rough spot they're in now.
Right.
You have back-to-back heartbreaking playoff losses, and you lose your top two coordinators.
Who do
I'm
you
not
think was
saying
the
the
bigger
window is.
loss between those two?
I think Ben Johnson, because I'm not like I. We got to see how this impacts golf, and we got to see how not having um I don't know, they'll have to learn a new system entirely, but the loss of Ben Johnson combined with you lost that game in part because of your 4 turnovers, what that's going to impact him on for next season.
Yeah.
All right, let's fire off these other couple follow-ups before we get to our picks.
Yeah. So Jacksonville fired their GM yesterday after missing out on the top head coaches. What does this mean
Yep.
for your guy Trevor Lawrence?
I think it's the best thing that, listen, I don't love that they missed out on the coaches, and maybe they'll still take a run at Liam Cohen. But Trevor was going to be that team was going to be drawing dead as long as Trent Baalke was there. Trent Baalke hasn't been a part of a double-digit win season since 2013. He somehow won a power struggle in San Francisco with damn Jim Harbaugh, and they ran Jim Harbaugh out. So they needed to move on from Baalke. It's really positive that they finally did. All right, last one.
Best remaining head coach opening: Cowboys, Raiders, Saints, or Jags.
Now that Baalke's gone, I think the Jags, because I still believe in Trevor, and that division is so wide open. The Saints salary cap situation's a disaster. The Raiders, the division is impossible. And the Cowboys,
Jerry
you have to
Jones
deal
and
with
Micah
Jerry.
Parsons podcast.
Right, you got to
Yeah.
deal with a lot of stuff. Now you have
Yeah.
Dak. Right now, I get it. Dak's better than Trevor, but I think Trevor has the higher upside and potential, and you can actually install your own culture in Jacksonville. So I would rank them Jags, Cowboys, Saints, Raiders. The thing with the Saints is you need to have a legitimate like 6-year runway. You need to make it clear next year and the year after we're cleaning up the cap. And then in 2027, excuse me, in 2027, we're going to try to start competing.